you want to be able to look back on your life and be like, that was a fucking cool story. Like I did this thing and I did this thing and I did this thing. You don't want to look back and be like, oh, I wish I did this thing. I wish I did this thing. Even if it's a fuck up, you know what I mean? Even my biggest mistakes are at least cool stories and lessons learned to catapult me forward.
Yep.
At least for me, kind of the perspective that I view a lot of the things that I want to accomplish is in the format of a story, in the sense that, as I asked you earlier on, like, do you want to accomplish things for the sake of money or for the sake of, um, impact or whatever it is? Definitely one of mine is for the sake of the story. Like,
Yeah.
what is the cool shit that I can do and will look back on and be satisfied? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it too for me. And I think that helps me think about it actually. Because you want to have a big book, and all those mistakes that you make, that's like one step back, two steps forward. Like you're just creating more. I mean, you're just like connecting more, more of your brain together with like how things work. And if you don't do those things, you're not going to learn, and you're making that story that much richer. And more exciting, and taking those risks is just a lot more fun, man. And it's the way to do it. And I think just like I'm ready to quit my job and move halfway across the world because I really just want to be thrown in the deep end. Because I got plenty I can fall back on. I built myself a safety net. But now it's like I want to go in the deep end and figure out how to get out, and come out on top. And I think there's gonna be some great stories along the way because the media, like you said, like the media, that's boring and not very it's not very valuable. There's not too much value in it.
Yeah.
At least not for us. It could be different for other people who have different values, but the books that we read and the knowledge that you and I are trained on now, it's not satisfactory. And I think when you open yourselves up to see what actually can be done and understand, like there are different ways to this stuff, like you have such a bigger appetite for ambition once you understand what's out there. And like I was talking about this morning, um, and just how like that whole article you sent about cities and ambition, and really thinking about that, how like yeah, in Chicago, I'm not really surrounded by like-minded people, and it's really difficult to understand what opportunities are out there if you don't know what exists, and it's really hard to know what exists if there aren't people around you talking about it. And it's the same with books. Like if you don't read the books that have these stories, if you don't read the stories of people doing crazy things, you don't even know it's possible. Like that, you don't know what the like. You might think like, oh yeah, he walked on the moon. But like, how did an astronaut become an astronaut? Like, what did it actually look like? Is that actually possible? Some things are like more in reach than you think, and you'll always assume things are out of reach unless you just do the research. And people are so scared of doing work. Like, you gotta just roll up your sleeves and put the work in sometimes. Get over yourself. And whenever people say, like, if I had this apartment, and I had this space, I could be a better musician because I have more room. Or, like, if I had this phone or if I had this, like, CRM software, my business would be that much better. I'm like, dude, you're the only person in your way. Like, you need to get over yourself because the person who did make that thing happen, they didn't have that stuff either. They figured it out. So you just need to put the work in and do it yourself. Otherwise, you're not going to get anything you want.
The idea that obstacles are in the way is, I think, just maybe not a misnomer, but just a falsehood. Like obstacles are the path. The thing that you
Yeah,
see as in your way is literally how you do the thing.
that's how you do it. It's just such a victim mentality. And not to, shit on people, but like, it's just, you just need to rethink it. Like, I think that's a great way to put it, that the obstacle is the path. Like, you have to do that. That's part of the journey.
Yeah.
Like, you got to put the work in. And you, as like a really proficient musician and producer, like, you've put the work in. You've done the hours to become good. And someone who's not good is going to think, man, if only I had that software, I could do it. Jay Dilla worked with like $20 of software, and he's one of the best of all time. Like,
Yeah.
it's the way it is. The obstacles are the path. I like that.
It's also connected to this another falsehood I think surrounds motivation. um, in the sense that what motivation really is. Because, people can say like, oh, I'm feeling motivated today, like I'm going to get a lot
Hmm.
done. And I think to some extent that's true, but I don't think what they're feeling is really motivation. I think what they're feeling is, just excitement or whatever it may be,
Yeah.
some parallel feeling. But true motivation is doing it when you don't want to fucking do it. And
Yeah.
if you are always going to be searching for
Yeah.
feeling motivated before you can actually do the thing, you're
Hmm.
never going to accomplish anything.
Totally agree. Yeah, I was curious to hear more of your thoughts on this, as being someone in the army. Like, I feel like the real motivator and like the way to capture motivation is by being a disciplined person. If you're not a disciplined person, you're not going to be able to be motivated. I'm curious, like, through the army, like what your take on that is.
I think that to some extent motivation is, or the layman's concept of motivation is kind of just not real,
Hmm.
in the sense that if you're disciplined, you'll simply do something.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, like I'm gonna try. Like there's
Yeah.
no, you don't, there's trying something is not real. Like you either do it or you don't do it.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no black and white. Like trying is just not doing it until you've done it or quitting
Yeah.
along the way.
Yeah.
Um, and especially in, an industry, I call it an industry, the military industrial complex that says, serious as this, it's just it's just a no excuse mentality. Like, I
Right.
get that it sucks. Like, oh, I get that this sucks. I get that you have to work late every single day for months. I get it. But you're going to do
Yeah.
it because that's what the end goal
That's what,
requires.
yeah. That's what you're doing at this point of your life. Like that is what's happening, and trying to fight it is pointless because you're just it's gonna be even. I feel like it'll be even worse if you try to fight it because you're first of all you're in a contract, but also it's like it's just going to be uncomfortable. You're going to take a big left turn in life and go down a path you don't want to go down because going against what you're supposed to do, how's that going to get you anywhere? You got to put in the work. And yeah, I agree with you a ton. And I think you framed it really well. And I feel like we have like a existential problem, at least in America, of the idea that you brought up, that motivation is like being excited for something versus motivation is really just putting in the work, and the thing separating you from your goals is yourself and your ability to sit down and just do it, just like that video of what's his face, um, what's his name, you ever see the video with Shia LaBeouf on the green screen and he's
Oh,
just
yeah.
sitting.
Just do it.
That's
Yeah.
honestly, I love that video, man.
Yeah.
I think
It's
that's
fantastic.
fantastic. It's so true. Just it's annoying as Nike is, but like, just fucking do it, man. Sit down and stop being a little bitch and do the work. You know,
Yeah.
you just gotta do the work, or else nothing's gonna happen.
I, uh, I just happen to have a quote regarding this topic, so I'm going to read it off. It's by C.S.
Mm,
Lewis, who,
mm,
wrote like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, I think
mm,
is what most people are familiar with. But he's written a lot of other really cool, introspective, existential stuff. Um, but if men had postponed the search for knowledge and beauty until they were secure, the search would never have begun. We are mistaken when we compare war with normal life. Life has never been normal. Even those periods which we think most tranquil, like the 19th century, turn out on closer inspection to be full of cries, alarms, difficulties, emergencies. And there's more to it, and I encourage people to look up the quote. But essentially, he's just going on about how, like, people were, pursuing their passions and doing the work in the worst of times and the best of times. He
mhm.
talks about how like people are reciting poetry at the walls of Troy and stuff like this. Like there's no perfect time to
Yeah,
do the thing. You just have to do the thing. And if you
yeah,
always wait for the perfect time, then maybe you'll get 5 minutes of work done, and then that'll
yeah.
be it.
And frankly, the idea of the perfect time is like a fleeting idea where typically the longer you wait, the harder it's going to be to find that perfect time.
Yeah. I mean,
I like that.
you can create the perfect time, because the perfect time really, at least in my mind, it facilitates doing the work. So if you're doing the work, then it's perfect.
Yeah,
That's the only prerequisite that at least
I
I
think
have.
that's a good way of looking at it.
Thank you so much for watching and listening today. Remember to like, subscribe, and follow to keep up to date with new content as it comes out. I appreciate your support and encourage you to exchange your thoughts in the comments below. As always, keep an open mind.